Alright, so this is the first recorded video of the year, but not the first uploaded video. I always upload, if I can at least, they come in before the first of the month, the complete previous month's haul on the first of that next month. So, December's books will be January 1st. I always have been doing that since the dawn of time. The reason why I do that is because just in case I get like a gift card on the 31st, or I get a okay and it comes in on the 31st, I count that as books for that month, and so I can do the video on the 1st. Because, yeah, I could get a gift card on the 31st, but then I just push the video to the second of that, though. Because let's say it's 1 day shipping for that book, comes in next day, I do that video, I do a redo of the video, and then I upload that all the way on the 2nd. You guys get what I'm saying. I'm confusing it, the words, mixing them up. Point is, first recorded video of the year. All I have to say. Alright, now this is part 1. I'm gonna try up 2. I should have no problem making it up 2. I might not be able to do that, though, actually, the more I think about it. It actually might be more like a 3, because of fucking Berserker. But without further ado, let's get into it. First one up is Neverland, so his comic reviews. First one up is Neverlanders by Tom Taylor, and it seems like every other book I read by this guy I don't really like. Now, something like Deceased, it's just disappointing because of how high of a pedestal it is on, and what expectations and all that, just not being met. Ridiculously high expectations, I'll give it, but they're just not being met. Then we have a book like Neverlanders, which is just bad. Like, I had no expectations going into this book whatsoever, but I did see the cover and I was like, it's gonna be one of these books, and it kind of is. Very lame. Very lame. Very... You could say that there is some, like, effort put into it, definitely, but just kind of uninspired, honestly. Kind of. Like, you've seen a lot of this stuff before, and it's just kind of done in very monotonous way. Just very boring, very forgettable, too. Like, I only remember bits and pieces from this book. Not a great book. For kids, it is a good book, though. I will give it that. But just because you say damn in hell a couple of times does not mean that, and I don't think it gets any stronger than that. Anything stronger, they censor. So, that's still PG language, It's kind of funny. I just said to myself, well, it wouldn't be for kids, but it would be, because that's a PG movie. If it was made into a movie, it'd be PG, it would still be released for kids. It's just that kids' movies don't swear at all nowadays. So, like, we kind of, I'm actually surprised they don't say, like, damn or hell in the kids' movie nowadays, because of how little they swear in movies. Actually, they don't at all. Most kids' movies are rated PG for, like, rude humor. They have, like, a juvenile humor joke in it, like a burp joke in it. That's why it's PG. Or they'll have, like, some mild action, like, the Despicable Me movies, they have a lot of action in it, so that's PG. Or Inside Out, because it's thematic elements. Any Pixar movie is usually rated PG for thematic elements. Nothing could possibly go wrong. The book I kept putting off, and honestly, this book, for it being this thick, goes by a lot quicker than you think it would. And unlike Neverlanders, is actually pretty damn good. Will I read this again? Probably not. It's about class presidents and the race to be the class president. And while it's not all it's about, it's just one of those books that doesn't really, the subject matter doesn't really interest me. I like books that take place in school. That's what I would read for the most part. Like the first, 10 years or so of reading, I was, my go-to. Like Wimpy Kid, like books like that. Of course, I wanted to be a little bit more than Wimpy Kid. Even as a kid, I knew Wimpy Kid was like a book. It was junk food for kids, basically. A good junk food, very addictive, like how junk food is. But it was junk food as a book. You would never get away with doing a Wimpy Kid as a book report. So I always wanted something a little bit more than that, but that's what I gravitated towards. And this would be one of the books I kind of would read once, and I don't even know if I'd finish it, honestly, because it was fast-paced. That's why I liked it. And it was pretty interesting. I liked the characters in it, kind of, but nothing too groundbreaking, nothing too special. Kind of middle of the road, above mid, like slightly above average, like a 6 out of 10. And if I'm keeping track, Neverlanders is a 1 out of 10. Maybe a 2. but honestly, I think a 1 out of 10. It really wasn't that great. It wasn't like insultingly bad, so that's why I don't want to give it a 1 out of 10, but really not that great at all. Nothing in it I liked, except for me a couple things, but even that. It was fast paced. I didn't fast paced. It didn't feel like I was there for years, but I kind of was. I took a lot of breaks because it was kind of boring and it was kind of slow, and it was not slow, but that kind of boring where you're just like you don't care and you're just like anything distracts you kind of thing. Umbrella Academy. Now this is really damn good. Gerard Way is definitely, obviously, a Grant Morrison fan, and as a Grant Morrison fan, I think he is the runner-up for being the next Grant Morrison. I don't think anybody can emulate Morrison's weirdness and his style of storytelling quite like how Gerard Way can do it. He doesn't do it in trying to copy him. He does it trying to like pay homage, if you will, to him, but make it his own thing. In Umbrella Academy, like honestly, I'm surprised I forgot about this book, because I was reading this book. Like you could tell me that I never read this book before, and I only read volume 1. I know I've read at least the first 2, maybe even 3. But I didn't remember anything about this book, like, at all. I couldn't even tell you what happens in this book. Like, before I read, I could not tell you what happens in this volume of Umbrella Academy. Great stuff. 8 out of 10. I'll try my best to do the review, to the out of 10 review, like out of 10 after I review it, not going all the way through it, go back to it, you know, that kind of thing. Like what I do is I go like Giant Days, blah 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 blah, and then I go back to it after and say Giant Days, 8 out of 10, and 8 out of 10, and I would just like I would do. I like doing it that I do kind of like doing that, but you can tell I'm messing up my words and like tripping over my words like I always do. But I think it's more it shows more organized to be like Giant Days, what I liked, what I didn't like, and then the final review of a blank out of 10, you know, instead of going what I thought about it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and then after I review every single book, going back over it just to say 8 out of 10 blank, da 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 da, you know, like that. That kind of seems a bit unorganized. I like doing it, but also it's unorganized. It's kind of like I'm flip-flopped. So that's why if I forget, I'm not going to be too pissed off. I'll just go back and the way I usually do it. But anyways, Giant Days, like the previous volume, 2 volumes I almost want to say, this has just showed so much improvement. I like that and I'm not going to spoil what happens, because it's technically a spoiler. It's because this book is just about college kids and their daily lives. Saying this character gets with this character would be considered a spoiler. So I'm glad that they continue a certain relationship, because I was thinking like it was a whole ass volume when it went on after Revelation. I think it was almost 2 of them, and I was like, we haven't gotten a follow up in that. Like I could have glossed over that completely, and then it's almost like I dreamed that issue. Nothing has been said about these characters in her Revelation. And then finally we got the resolution. Again, I want to say like 2 or 3 volumes ago, and then the relationship continues, and just like really solid stuff. Like I never really felt the length of this book, because it does feel like a bit longer in general. I think instead of it being like 23 pages each issue is like 27 pages, and sometimes I did feel those extra pages, but here I really haven't. Like, it's been such a damn good book, and it ends on there's a little bit of a cliffhanger too, and it's just like a slice of life. Like, I am reading this like how I read something like Preacher at times. How it's like a page turner. I wouldn't say like Preacher, it's a bit too far, because probably how much I like Preacher, but it's like that. It's like a crime novel almost. Like, it's a page turner. You want to know what happens next, and it's literally about college kids, and that is fantastic. And we're 8 volumes in, and I cannot wait to read the next volume, and that has not stopped. If anything, it's gotten even more and more like it's exacerbated. Like, I want to read the next volume even more than I want to read the last volume. Like, when I started out, I was like, yeah, I'll check the next volume. Now I'm like, I've got to check the next volume. And then my library doesn't have it, and I'm super pissed. They do. They have at least the first 14. I think the whole series, actually. Because I believe it is over. We Only Find Them When They're Dead, Volume 2. This is going to be I implied it, but 8 out of 10. We Only Find Them When They're Dead, Volume 2. This is going to be probably the quickest review I ever give to a comic, because this comic I don't even, like, it's so out there that I didn't know what was going on half the time, but the art is really pretty and it's pretty well paced. 7 out of 10. Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons. Now this is how you do something fresh. All this comic does is take place in the 1500s. That's the only twist, and it is it feels so refreshing with just that one thing being done. Because usually the Godzilla movies are like modern day New York, modern day Chicago, modern day city. I don't even know if Chicago's ever been. But I almost want to say it's always been New York or Tokyo. It just always feels in Tokyo. Even then, like it kind of, I don't know. But even though I haven't seen a Godzilla movie all the way from start to finish, the main reason why I'm so skeptical is because the main complaint people have is that human characters are boring. I know I should know what I'm going in for Godzilla. I know I should just be going in, be satisfied with the monster shit, but you gotta deal with all the human characters also, so it's like when people would say, oh, the action in this movie is really good, but there's no story, and it's like, I'm not gonna go in for just for the action. I want to go in for every single thing, for if a movie's gonna be 2.5 hours and the action is good, unless it's every second, which even then that'd be a terrible movie, because that would be like, it'd be so like mind numbing. You would be like, you had a headache. You'd have a headache by the first hour and a half, So you had to deal with the other stuff, and again, like a Godzilla movie just fine, but I think the only one I'm gonna watch all the way through was -1. But anyways, this one twist made this comic for me. This is a really damn solid Godzilla comic. And Frank Thierry seems to be hit or miss. But I honestly, as I read each new Frank Thierry book, I don't read them often, but when I do, I forget the ones I didn't like. I cannot remember off the top of my head which one I read. There's a few of them. I think some of his Deadpool stuff I wasn't too crazy about. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't too crazy about it. But there was something else he wrote, and I don't think it was Deadpool. I was kind of like, is Frank Thierry really a great writer? And I read like this, and I read something like Weapon X, and both those are solid books. 8 out of 10. It's a boring number, but that's why I do the actual review. We Live, such an improvement from my last read through. First time I read this, I was like, I did not get why people like this at all. It's actually kind of bad. I didn't really like this book. But now I read it again, and yeah, there's a reason why I reread books so often, and this is a fantastic example, because I am completely turned around. I probably gave this book like a 3 out of 10 the first time I read it. Now it's up to like a 9 out of 10. This is solid work. A refreshingly new take on the sci-fi genre. This needs to be made into either a TV show, limited series, I think there's only 2 volumes of this series, or 2 movies, begging for a theatrical release. I would say movie, because this is a thin comic. Only 2 of them. So yes, I said 9 out of 10. I said 9 out of 10. Captain America and the Mighty Avengers. Sometimes I'll reread books, and I feel the exact same way. Maybe I like this one a little bit more, but if I give this book like a 5 out of 10 last time, it's really only gone to a 6 out of 10. It's pretty interesting, but it's okay. Kind of dollar bin stuff, but I wouldn't say like that bad. It's just kind of monotonous and forgettable. It's interesting. I like that they do more cosmic stuff, but they do that all the time in Avengers books, honestly. I just feel like they don't, because I always think it's going to be street level stuff, but not really. Yeah, just okay. Al Ewing has never been like a superstar writer for me. I think the only reason why when I see Al Ewing on a book, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll check that one out, is because of Immortal Hulk. That's about it. And maybe his Rocket book was good. I read the first volume of his Immortal Hulk. Actually, the first 2 volumes, that they were in a hardcover, thanks to Prime Reading gave it to me for free. It's not on there anymore. Prime Reading has been absolutely butchered by every publisher. There's nothing from IDW anymore, and that stuff has been on there for years. I don't know what happened. I don't know. They're just slowly but surely going to make it into Kindle Unlimited. I don't know, but it's really annoying. Moving on, Shang-Chi Volume 2. Like in Volume 1, I really like this series. It's really damn good. It's proof that Shang-Chi can work as not just his own character, but as a continuing comic book series. And if only they just adapted this into the movie, maybe more people remember the movie even came out. Like me. I honestly forgot this was in the movie. I knew when I saw Shang-Chi, I was like, oh yeah, the movie, and I saw it. I remember a whole lot from it. Very forgettable. But unlike the movie, this is pretty damn unforgettable. Somewhat. I mean, it's still, I don't think no, I would say it's like the baseline of being unforgettable. Like, you look at this book and like, yeah, this happened in this volume. Last volume, that happened. Damn good Jin Lu Yang book. 8 out of 10. It's a solid book. Black Panther, very forgettable. Eve Ewing proves that she is just kind of a forgettable writer. Decent writer, but forgettable. Decent and forgettable. That's the best way to describe this book. 6 out of 10. World's Finest, Supergirl and Batgirl. For a 64-page book, this felt more like 48 pages. In a good way. Just pretty solid. It's a solid enough book. 7 out of 10. Not a whole lot to say about it. Wasn't obviously not one of the best, better Elseworlds books, but if you're an avid collector of Elseworlds and you haven't read that yet, I would recommend reading it. Or if you want to get into Elseworlds, it's probably the best one to read first. I would say do Kingdom Come. She reads something really damn good, and it's something you're gonna want to read again and again and again. But that is just something if you find it at your dollar bin in your local comic shop, I would say definitely pick it up then. Batman, Two-Face, and Scarecrow Year 1. The worst Year 1 book I've ever read, but that is saying a lot. But not just one of the worst Year 1, not just the worst Year 1 book I've read, but one of the worst Batman books I've read. This was a snooze. An absolute snooze. There's two things I like about this book, so I'm giving it 2 out of 10. It was Scarecrow's childhood and the fact that the last Two-Face book, because they're double length, 48 pages. You feel every page. I feel every page. The last one wasn't as slow. Just not that great. Nothing in it is insulting, but very much a monotonous, I'll never read this one again kind of book. And I'm glad I finished it. And thank God it was only 4 issues. Superman, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Alan Moore is a godsend. This is another great example of why that is so. 9 out of 10. I dare not say more. Pick it up immediately. Deluxe edition is worth every penny so long as it's still in print. Suicide Squad Volume 3. I just really like this new 3-2 Suicide Squad. It is fun, investing, it's kind of a page turner at times, and I just like the characters. I don't mind there's changes made. They're not really that noticeable because I'm kind of used to this version of the characters somewhat, but it's pretty damn good. I know Amanda Waller, I think I still can't get over the way she looks in this, and then as opposed to every other interpretation of her, but it's a small nitpick. Who cares? I think this book is very solid, very fun. It's fun, just you read this book, it doesn't give you, it's not going to give you anything too groundbreaking, it's not going to break new ground, but it knows that, it just wants to be a fun comic, and I can't say that word anymore, because it's going to become one of those words to say so many times, it doesn't even sound like a word anymore. So, 8 out of 10. Solid stuff. Catwoman, Joelle Jones. Joelle Jones can do no wrong, and this is proof that even on the second reread, her stuff isn't gonna get old, and it won't by the 15th. 8.5 out of 10. I go a little bit higher for that one. Identity Crisis. Brad Meltzer's best DC work so far. I've read 2. 9 out of 10. Simply, and I get what the controversies behind it, but nothing changed at all when I was reading this book. I loved the book the first time I read it. Thought it was absolutely outstanding and a bit underrated, and I think that the second time around. DCeased Hope at World's End. The worst DCeased book, kind of really forgettable, and not all that necessary at all either. I forgot, very forgettable again, like I said, and nothing in the next book, or really at all, was oh, they said that in this book, that's pretty cool. I think maybe there's 2 things that happen in this book that are carried over to other DC's books, I can't really say. Like, not like DC's comes out, then this one is obviously that is the case. But nothing out after this. Like, there's no indication that I had to read this before anything else, except for after DC's. Okay. It was a DC digital first book, and it kind of makes sense to me that no one remembers that era of DC Comics during the pandemic. It's kind of a forgotten era of DC Comics, and it shows. Like, they haven't even done any more print graphic novel printings of those, to my knowledge. We still haven't got anything from Batman, I don't think, except for that one. DC's Dead Planet. Finally, a good DC's book. This is my second favorite one. So it goes so far. So it goes Unkillables, this, Dead Planet, and then the bottom is Hope It Won't End. This is a solid book. Kind of a cop-out ending, but a solid book. There's one more after this, so I think the cop-out ending, something's gonna happen to that cop-out ending, and hope it'll get an actual definitive ending. But yeah, that was kind of a bit lame. A bit lame. Only a bit, though. Did not squander the book at all for me. It's still an 8 out of 10. Oh, and this is a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for Hope It Won't End. 8 out of 10 for Dead Planet. The Sandman Overture. Completely... So, Sandman is very divisive book, in my opinion. Not just because of the actual work, but how I feel about it. I'm very mixed on how I feel about this book. About this whole entire series, I mean. And this is a good example of why I don't really like some Sandmans. Like, Volume 6, my worst. This is the second worst. I had no idea what was going on half the time. And it was like, what even is this? There's no point to this. You can literally skip this and miss nothing. Absolutely nothing. You could skip this and you wouldn't be none the wiser. It's proof that you should have ended at issue 75. And even then, maybe excise some issues. I didn't even say that. As much as I don't like Volume 6 of Sandman, there is a reason for it to exist. This, I really don't think there is. It's kind of an epilogue maybe, but not really. But I don't know. Very just weird and just not my thing at all. 2 out of 10. I know it's blasphemous, but hey, I actually like some volumes of Sandman. Ironically enough, Volume 5 I really liked. Volume 5 is my favorite. Volume 6 is my least favorite. It's still my least favorite. Overture, I would say they're tied, if anything, honestly. Lady Baltimore, The Witch Queens, and Tales from the Outerverse. Why am I doing these back to back? Well, these are both by Mike Mignola and Christopher Golden. And one is really good, and one is really bad. And honestly, this one's only good because the Gollum Walks Among Us story. Ha ha ha, Among Us. The video game reference movie thing. But Among Us is really good. Like, the Gollum Walks Among Us, I think it's really solid, and it was like really invested. I was invested in it. Page turner, all that junk. I cannot wait for the next volume. The next issue is a 2-issue series. I kind of been nice if that was all that story and just like stretch it out to 5 issues. They could have, but this one is just okay. Got a little bit better towards the end, but not by much. I would say 5 out of 10 and 4 out of 10. 3 out of 10. And that's only because of Gollum. Only because of Gollum. It's funny how it's the same word, but you say it differently technically. It's Gollum, Lord of the Rings, and Gollum, Golem. But they sound the exact same, so I was like, oh no, I messed up that word. I didn't. And finally, last but not least, we have Cormac McCarthy's The Road. An absolutely outstanding adaptation. Proving that not only is there a reason to do these, but there's a reason for why graphic novels are a good alternative. Because for someone like me, I'm not the best visual learner, but it's not it. Like, I can read a book just fine and understand what they're saying, but if they're really descriptive, I'm like, yeah, you mean this, right? And they're like, no, we meant that. You cannot be more wrong, kind of thing. Not like that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get the idea. But graphic novels, it's actual pictures, so you don't have to spend so much time explaining what's going on in the setting. So something like a post-apocalyptic, that genre can be done perfectly in graphic novels. And novels, it's like, yeah, but it's just words. Yeah, your imagination is gonna get you there. but still, like, and of course the way it's written, but just seeing it in picture format is just so much better for me. That's why I am pretty much just graphic novels nowadays. Maybe I'll go maybe I'll read Glass Castle. I mean, it's the only book I've read. Even though I haven't finished it yet. I should, though. That's the only novel that I read. And even then, like, I may even go back to it. It's still in my backpack, and I should probably actually return to the library. The school library. Again, I work at a school, educator, and I'm lucky enough the library I go to get these books like these, the comics, is right across the street. I mention this every time, so fucking should mention it again. 9 out of 10, and the movie apparently is good too, so check that one out after. But I still haven't finished the movies I got last time, so I do that first. But that, as they say, I have another one to pick up too. And that, as they say, is that. A lot of comics to review, a lot of books to return to the library now. Somewhere in my personal collection, like the DC's books, those are my PCs. The Mike Mignola's, those are my PCs too, so 4 books already. They don't have to take with me to school tomorrow, to work tomorrow. But that's it. I said 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for the road. 26 minutes, not bad. But how much? Okay, let's give a little bit more time. But first video of the year.